Hi, it's Paris from EpicReviewGuys, and I've recently been learning a lot about probiotics and bacteria that you want to have in your intestine for your health. Now, you may not be into probiotics, but you might want to put some probiotics into you.
Epic Review Guys.
We started out trying one probiotic, and a month later, look at us now. So what's the big deal about probiotics? Why are there books being written about that? Why are there so many different varieties you can now find in the store? Well, recently scientists have discovered that probiotics may play a much more key role in everyone's health, both physical health and very surprisingly mental health, than they had thought before. I'm sure you've heard the old saw, you are what you eat. Well, it turns out there are about 10 trillion bacteria that live in your intestine that are also what you eat. In other words, the makeup of those colonies of bacteria are determined both by your exposure to the bacteria, having some of the different strains actually have a chance to get inside of you, and then the foods that you eat, whether the foods you eat tend to help those bacteria grow or whether they can't process what you're putting in as food and so they starve and other bacteria take over instead. You may think, well, what do I care about some bacteria that live in me? I'll just take some antibiotics, get rid of them all and be done with it. Well, you'd be done with you as well. It turns out you can't really process a lot of the food you eat without the bacteria. They actually do the hard work of breaking it down, making the nutrients and the different elements available for your body to absorb. So you need to have the bacteria. And there are many different strains of bacteria, not necessarily good or bad, depending on your circumstance. If you were a cave dweller 10,000 years ago, this type of bacteria might be just what you needed to survive. But living in society today with different demands that we put on our bodies and different demands we don't make of our bodies, those bacteria may be doing things to make you fat, to cause inflammation, diabetes, and to affect your mood and your mental health. Now, I have no medical training. Sometimes it's still hard for me to swallow pills, so I'm not asking you to take my word for any of this, and I'm not giving any medical advice, but I would recommend, based on the research that's being done now and a lot of exciting discoveries where they're finding out how very surprisingly the makeup of those bacterial colonies in your intestine affect your health, to go out and find a book to read about it. This is an excellent book that myself and some friends have just finished reading. Nobody thought it was a real page turner, but the information in it is absolutely fascinating, and it can affect how you take care of yourself and some different ways to treat your health that wouldn't be immediately obvious. Now, this book, Brain Maker, is primarily about how your microbiome, that's the collection of the bacteria that live inside of you, how they can affect your brain. The traditional way to test things out with food and brain would be to take some food. You want to know if the chemicals in it can harm the brain. You break it down, take those chemicals, put them in a petri dish with some brain cells and see what happens. Does it kill off the brain cells? No, they seem to be doing fine. Okay, then this food probably isn't harmful to the brain. But it's not that simple. And I think this may be part of why there are these illnesses that have been considered very mysterious. People haven't been able to figure out the cause of them. They might be related, at least in part, to the organisms you have living in your intestine. And the reason for that is, so you take the chemicals from the food, you put it with the brain cells do fine. Okay, this can't possibly be affecting the brain. But it's not that simple because of the intermediary effect of those bacteria. What you're really doing when you eat that food is you're consuming it. The bacteria, depending on which bacteria are in your intestine, that food gets broken down in possibly different ways. And so there are different nutrients available, different byproducts that come out that may not be to your advantage to have in your system, that get pulled in from your intestinal wall into your bloodstream and may get up to your brain. And so the food itself and its components may not have a direct effect on the brain cells. But when that food is used to feed bacteria, what those bacteria produce and how those bacteria interact with the food can produce components that get into the brain and cause bad things to happen. Some conditions of the brain that might be affected by the organisms you have living in you and the foods that you feed them might be Alzheimer's, autism, depression, anxiety, ADHD, a lot of illnesses that they really don't know what causes it, but people who are looking into it now are seeing some connection between the bacterial organisms that you have or don't have and what happens to the food that you eat. But I'm just skimming the surface of the information that they've learned. And again, I don't have any medical background, so I'd recommend you go read up on these things yourself if you're at all interested in this. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about the background of it so it would explain why we're going out and spending money on probiotics. Probiotics are collections of one or more strains of bacteria that you would like to have living inside of you, and this is how you can put some of those in you in case you don't have any of that strain or you don't have enough of it. Now this is sort of like starting the colony growing. You still will need to feed them properly if you want them to flourish and do what they're supposed to. So this is only part of the equation, taking the probiotics. And other parts include what you eat, what you should not eat, and also getting exercise and other ways of keeping your body healthy. The bacteria that you're going to consume with probiotics need to be in your intestine. But to get to your intestine, ordinarily they need to go through your stomach, and the stomach is not a very pleasant place for bacteria. They tend to get destroyed by the acid and the harsh conditions before they can get to the intestine. Some will get through. So yogurt and foods that have probiotics and different bacteria added will get you some of the bacteria, but the ideal way is to have the bacteria encapsulated in some way that they get a free ride through the stomach, and then in the intestine the capsule opens up, and then the bacteria can be where it's much more friendly for them to find a place to live. That's the thinking behind these two probiotics. This is the first probiotic we started off with about 6 weeks ago, I would say. Hyperbiotics Pro 15. There's 5 billion bacteria in each little, it's like a little ball, and 15 different strains. Now these were a little large for the kids. They don't like to swallow pills, so we got the kids version of this. They're smaller, and if you really can't swallow it, you can chew it up and swallow it. Some of the bacteria will die along the way, but again, some of them will make it through to your intestine. Here you can see the two probiotics. This is the one for adults. This is the size. The same idea with the capsule, with the bacteria inside. This is the kids version, much smaller. Sadly though, my kids still say they have a hard time swallowing these, and they don't like the taste when they chew them up. So we got children's chewable probiotics. These are little bear-shaped things that are cute, and they're meant to be chewed up. However, they are kind of chalky, and they didn't like the taste of these either. So in my continuing effort to find some kind of probiotics that the kids would drink, we got these Good Belly probiotic juice drinks. This one's mango, this one's blueberry. They haven't tried them yet. I'm hoping they'll like at least one of these. And this mood probiotic just arrived in the mail today. This was actually recommended by a doctor, and we're actually taking this to a family member who has some anxiety and depression issues. This formulation has 2 specific strains of bacteria that were shown in some research to actually improve mood and to help with some of those mental health issues. So again, this was only around $20. There are 60, I guess, capsules or tablets, haven't opened yet inside. But this is something people with depression and anxiety issues can try out that doesn't have the side effects of so many of the medications that are prescribed for that. It's an exciting time in medicine and for learning more about probiotics, as well as how the food you eat determines which bacteria live in you. There was a study just a few days ago I posted on Instagram, this little news story I saw about a study where they had people eating salmon and fatty fish versus people eating regular animal fat products. And they found that the bacteria that like the fish, that grow well when you're eating a lot of fish, those tend to help with weight control and blood sugar balance. Whereas the people who are eating the animal product diet were feeding the type of bacteria that contribute to obesity-related inflammation. More research being done all the time on how what we eat and the bacteria that live inside of us can relate to medical and health conditions we wouldn't ever have considered. And it's pretty exciting because now you may actually, with something like this and changing your diet, be able to improve that health condition, whereas before your only choice was a medication that had a whole bunch of side effects. If you're interested in this book or any of these products, I'll have links to them down below this video, and I will do a follow-up video in a month or two, let you know how we're doing with the probiotics, let you know what the kids thought of the Good Belly probiotic drinks. We'll keep up with the latest news about probiotics. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram to see posts about that, I'll make sure I have our Instagram link down below this video as well. I'll be back with some more videos soon. You can keep checking back for those, or you can click that subscribe button down below. You'll get notified when our videos go up. See you on the next review.
Shopping is easy when you know what to buy. At EpicReviewGuys, we give it a try. What does the fox buy? Nobody knows, but before Before he goes shopping, he watches our